healthy for me. It's not a healthy practice for me to entirely focus on one thing. And, you know, the other thing is that, you know, those roles and things, those are important things for me to be involved in and do. I wouldn't be the person I am today without all those people that are out there supporting me at times and in times that need my support. So anyway, that's a good segue to the next slide, which is that it seems like, you know, we can kind of get in these places where we feel like we have to be successful and accomplish these things, seemingly like, you know, sometimes you hear the metaphor of there's the swan in the lake and it's just cruising across the lake, but of course underneath it's just furiously paddling and going crazy. It seems like we only see the swan part, you know, and so it looks like when we look at others on the outside, they look like they're doing great, but they may be struggling with all kinds of things that we don't know about. And so that kind of attitude of, you know, winning and perfection and always being there for everything may not be the best way to do things. So, okay, so if we're not going to do that, you know, how can we do that? And again, these are just some funny things. These are both little memes that I've always liked. And they make me laugh even right now, especially the jetpack one. So, you know, how can we balance these things without going crazy, you know, as it says? And these are things that again, that I do. I'm not perfect at them. I don't do them all the time, but I do them fairly consistently. And I can't quite see my slide. Let me see if I can move that over. Okay. So the first thing is just briefly scheduling. The next is kind of this very wise person once told me about 3 or 4 things a day, and I'll get into what that means. The next one is self-care, and then considering that we need to talk to other people about what's going on with us. And finally, you know, we're human beings, not human doing. So I'm just going to jump into this. So, you know, this is a picture of a list from a particular day that I had. And I like to do this. This helps me. And I like lists. Maybe that's one of my Gallup strengths. But it helps me to write things down. What do I have to do? You know, personal, professional things that I need to get accomplished in a reasonable time frame. And so I write these things down on a legal pad. I don't really like to use computers or my phone to do that. I like to have it on paper. And I will take a day during the week. Sometimes I'll update it, but I'll go through and I'll just kind of list the things, the important things that I need to get accomplished. And I have my list for this week is sitting behind me somewhere. Again, other ways you could do this in your computer, you could set up reminders, whatever you want to do, but this is what works for me. I write these things down and then I get to check them off the list, which I really like to do. You know, I really like to go, okay, I finished that and put a line through it. Sometimes the things on the list get done and sometimes they don't. But I know they're there, and this helps me to, you know, avoid that feeling that, oh my gosh, I'm going to let something drop. I'm going to forget to do something. I've got it on paper. It's someplace that I carried around with me. I've got it. You know, I've got that there. And, you know, as I said, I put personal and professional things on the list. So like going to the gym is on there. You know, I have a goal. I want to go to the gym 3 times a week and run once. And, you know, that's on there. If maybe I'll get to those 4 times of exercise and maybe I won't, and I have to give myself a break that, okay, I didn't do that, but you know, I'm going to get something else done. And as I said, Sometimes I write things down on there that I've done already, just so that I can cross something off, which a lot of, I've talked to a lot of list making people in my day, and they've all admitted to doing that from time to time. So here's a really good thing that somebody told me, is that, just to read it out loud, is we love lists. It can be frustrating not to get everything checked off our list, but consider that if you can get 3 things done today, you're in pretty good shape. If you get 4 things done, you're ahead. And this is really important to consider, is that some days, your 3 things might be taking a shower, getting the mail, and emptying the dishwasher. And that's okay. Some days, we all face days like that where we just don't have much else to give. We don't have it. We might not feel well. There could be a lot of things going on. And you know what? But we got those 3 things done. And it's okay, because we're human beings. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has days where you don't get quite as much done as you would have liked to. But if at least you get those 3 things done, you can go, okay, I'm good. At least I got that done. So, take it for what it's worth. It's been a wise piece of advice for me. If you get more than 3 done, that's great. But at least gets those 3 things done. And again, could be anything. Self-care is something else that I used to think, this was ridiculous and silly. And, men work. This was kind of a thing that some voice in my head from somewhere used to say, and take care of the responsibilities, and that's how that is. Well, that's great. But I think that, and we all face similar pressures like that, where we feel those kinds of, I'm just doing this stuff and I can't seem to have any time for myself or to do anything that I enjoy. And it takes a long time to kind of, having had kids and going through all those times to come to grips with some of those things. But over the years, these are some things that I've learned to do, that let me express it to you this way. I really can't help anybody else if I don't take care of myself. And that sounds kind of selfish, but it's actually true, is that I'm a much more giving person and able to give more if I take some time for myself to do some things that I enjoy. And so here's some things that I do, is and all these things, again, do I do them every day? No. Do I do the best I can with them? Yeah. And do I do them more than I used to do? Absolutely. So journaling is one thing I do, and I think I have a later slide where I talk a little bit more about that. Taking time to do something I enjoy. As I mentioned earlier, I do art. I like to do that as kind of a means of meditation and relaxation. And, a couple of times a week, I'll work on something for half an hour. This is very important right now, especially, is that, there's a lot of contentious stuff out there on social media and in the news. And I've, particularly now, as a political scientist, I have to look at some of it. But I also have reached points where it's like, I need to take a break for this for about 10 days or something. And so I don't watch the news. I don't keep up with it. It'll be there when I get back. What impact I might have on something like that is minimal to none, but it certainly can have an impact on me. But I can choose to avoid it. One way to do that is to stay off social media. Another way to do that is to turn off notifications on my phone for breaking news alerts or whatever it happens to be. And take a walk, read a book. 15 or 20 minutes sometimes is enough. to really, help me kind of regenerate. Whereas if I was constantly working and constantly kind of engaging with this multitasking environment, that would not be a good thing. So self-care also involves, some element of, what I would call a spiritual background. We all come from different sorts of backgrounds in that regard. Regardless of those, some sense of being part of something bigger than us is important, to me at least. And it helps me when I can connect to that, to, reduce my focus on worrying about what's coming up in the future or ruminating on something that happened in the past that didn't turn out so well. One thing that I do is, I'll call or text people that are friends of mine and ask them, how are they doing? Something I learned a long time ago, people are always willing to talk about themselves. They love to do that. And I like to be asked about what's going on with me. And so I can take that step and do that with some other people that I know. Reading, given that, as a professor and for you guys as students, given that a lot of the stuff we read is rather on the dry side, sometimes I do enjoy reading academic materials, often I do, but I can also read other things at times when I've got a spot to do it. Personally, I'm probably like a lot of you. I have 3 or 4 things going at any one time, and I may be rereading something also. So, that's fairly easy for me to do, is to just, have something sitting there. Like before I go to bed at night, I usually read something. I may only read for 10 minutes before I fall asleep, but I don't read my phone in bed, things like that, That's one thing that I also do to avoid that kind of thing is I charge my phone in the kitchen. So I don't have it I can't hear it. It doesn't beep in the middle of the night. I don't have to do that. Taking 5 minutes to breathe, that's probably something I could do more of, but it's true. It's like sometimes it's nice, at work, just to take a minute, go down the steps outside the library, walk down the mall a little bit, come back in, walk around the building, something like that, and just doing that, taking that 5 minutes can really help. And it's good for you too, just to get up and get some blood going. I'm sure if Dr. Bloomquist was in here, she could tell us about the values of such practices. Finally, with journaling, and really, I've been doing something along these lines since about April, where I get up in the morning a little bit earlier than I normally would, and I write 3 pages, and it's kind of free-flowing, whatever comes out kind of writing. And what it ends up being is it's really reflection and discernment is what it is in many cases. So sometimes they're just, lists of this is kind of what happened and this is things I have coming up today. But other times it tends to be a little bit deeper, where I'm writing about something that happened yesterday that I felt that was funny, or something that I really enjoyed, or something that, perhaps I didn't act in a manner as effectively as I could have. And I need to, go and talk to that person and clean something up, some mistake or error that I caused. Or, thinking about, here's something that's coming up, I'm worried about it, or some general life situation that I'm concerned about. Those kinds of things come out in that journaling. And what I've found is by doing it, it takes it out of the realm of, my mind, which can magnify those things and twist them out of proportion, puts it on paper and allows me to say, okay, I'm going to do something about this. Or it could be that I think, I don't know what to do about this. Maybe I should talk to somebody else about it. Or it could be, I don't know what to do about this, and I don't know if it's a big deal, so I'm not going to do anything about it at all. But that's what helps. The journaling and that reflection and discernment process helps me to get to those places with things so that they don't rattle around in my head all day while I'm trying to do other things. Finally, some pretty simple things. Am I getting enough exercise? Am I eating well? Am I getting enough sleep? These are all parts of things that I do that, as somebody who's 50, it's important to do, but it also provides me with a lot better general overall, attitude, a better I have more energy to do the things that I need to do when I take care of myself in that way. How much sleep do you need? That's an entirely subjective thing. Am I eating right? For me, I try to avoid fast food when I can, and I try to exercise 3 or 4 times a week. That works for me. It helps me to, again, have that balance, have that energy to be able to give back to the other people that have relationships with in my life. Finally, talking to others and reasoning things out. People and circumstances are not in my control. People, places, and things. I can't really do anything about a lot of that. However, I can choose how I can react to things. Sometimes those reactions really come very naturally and are very intuitive and easy. But sometimes they're not quite as easy to discern what I'm supposed to do. So, over the years, I've developed kind of a circle of people that I trust that I can talk to about whatever's going on. And, sometimes it's not like I'm looking for a solution. It's that I need to verbalize it to someone else and, allow some, higher power or whatever you want to call it to, suggest a solution somehow. Sometimes I talk to somebody and they'll be like, hey, yeah, I totally went through that, and this is what I did. And sometimes that works. And again, I think that for me, getting that kind of stuff out of my head and verbalizing it to someone else reduces the fear that's inherent in some of them. And so it allows me to be more current and in the moment. That gives me better opportunities to be able to see people around me, and when they need help, that I can pitch in and do something, or to come up with some new idea. Because when I'm worried about the future, or I'm, ruminating about something that happened, then I'm not in today, I'm not in the moment, I can't pay attention to my surroundings as effectively. So here's a few quotes. Abraham Lincoln is alleged to have said that most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. And sometimes in the past I thought that was kind of a silly idea, but it's really true, and it's not really a faking it kind of thing. It's like, okay, today I'm going to be happy in the situations that I'm in. And I can choose to do that if I want to. We've all had a lot of challenges in our lives and times that were tough. And for me, having been through some of those things, I am often grateful for the life that I have. Am I grateful every single day or every single waking moment? No, I'm not. But most of the time I am. And there's often for me a choice involved. I can choose to kind of get down on myself about some things, or I can choose to take some action, or I can choose to talk to somebody else, use those strategies, and that helps me to get out of those kind of moments. Another person that I know told me that, looking at life like an adventure to be experienced rather than a series of challenges to be overcome. That's been an important thing for me too. In that, in the past, when I was in my 20s or 30s, it's like early bird gets the worm, devil take the hindmost, march forward, conquer, do these things, get this stuff. And as I've gotten older, and that's for some that, some periods of life, that's a perfectly fine way to be, I guess. But it lost its luster for me. And so if I can, again, choose that attitude to look at life that way, then I'm certainly a lot happier than I once was. And then finally, I need to look at life like an art project rather than a math problem. I have done that so many times where it's like, okay, this is what's going to happen, and I'm going to do this and this and this, and then that person's going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then it's all going to be fine. And it doesn't work like that, at least for me. I see people whose lives appear to work that way, where they just kind of say, okay, I'm going to plug these variables and set these things, and it's just going to go this way. And God bless them. But life doesn't work like that for me. There's going to be paint on the floor. We just had an art day at work where we had a wellness day where we did art. And I told everybody, I said, I'm putting a bunch of plastic down, and I'm going to end up with paint on my hands and probably in my hair at some point. So just watch out. And that's just the way it is. And so, the more often I can look at that, like, what am I doing here? One of the things that being, an artist at my night job, so to speak, that I've noticed over the years is that a lot of people, they'll make art, but the first thing they'll say is something like, this isn't any good, and what they're seeing, and I have done this myself, and I do this with a number of things, is I'll see all the errors in it. I would have had a vision for what it was going to be, but it didn't quite turn out that way. And I will see the little mistakes and the errors in it. Whereas if someone else sees it, they may like it or they may not like it, but they don't know about those errors. And in fact, that may be something about the piece that they really like. Similarly, when I go to see an art show or something, I may like a piece or I may not, but I don't know what the vision was of the artist that made it. I don't know what errors they made, or, oh, that color is just a tad bit off of what I was actually shooting for. Yeah, I don't know any of those things. I just, I can respect the creativity and the technique and the time it took them to make it. And so I need to, kind of give myself a break in that regard, in that I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I need to acknowledge those through reflection and discernment and talking to other people, and own what I can do and do the best I can. And that's that's what I can do, is just keep going forward and doing the best that I can. And so at that point, I am done. So I hope that was valuable to someone. And at this point, I guess, does Deb intervene and offer questions or opportunities for that sort of thing?
I am intervening.
Okay.
After rolling on the floor laughing about the stabbing one on the list. What slide was that? It said stabbing is illegal or something like that.
Oh, the one about, drinking coffee and wearing pants and you can't go.
Yes. So
I like that one.
Stabbing is illegal. Okay, so does anyone have questions for Dr. Martin?
I have one.
Andrea.
Dr. Martin.
Yes.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
That was my question. No, I'm joking. I have two questions. The first is, can we have access to your presentation?
Oh, I imagine so. Do you want me to stick it on the Student Resource Center or something like that?
Yeah, if you don't mind, because there are lots of great insights and I didn't take notes of all. And
Sure.
thank you very much.
And I know Deb records these, so I'm sure she'll send it out.
Yes,
not
I
to
remembered
go to
it.
the video like again, but
Yep.
not, I will go to the video. Dr. Martin,
Mhm.
I was thinking about multitasking. And sometimes I discovered that when I'm doing 3 or 4 activities at the same time, I'm just exhausted. And I've decided to go one at a time. How is your approach to that? How do you feel that things are working better in your life? Multitasking or not?
I do both. There are some things that there are times when I enjoy multitasking, but it tends to be short tasks that take 5 to 10 minutes a pop, and so, when I can be there and kind of be knocking off several things at one time, that's great. There are other times where I need, quiet and singular focus to get something that takes more than, say, half an hour done. I really need that time. It's not like writing papers and things like that. Surprisingly enough, perhaps to some of you, that doesn't come naturally to me. And so I have to be in kind of a place where I can do it. And that requires, hey, I'm going to need at least 3 or 4 hours to kind of get into the zone of doing that and be productive. And so, yeah, there are times when I multitask, and there are times where I take a strategy like you're saying and just do, okay, I'm going to get this thing done, or I'm going to work on it for a considerable period of time. So, but each to his own.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, sometimes when you're multitasking, not you, but when I'm multitasking, my attention I've discovered that I'm not putting like all the attention in these 3 activities. And sometimes someone is talking to me and I don't remember.
Right. Yep. Been there.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions for Dr. Martin?
We had a question in the George's house. If you have a minute, Dr. Martin.
Oh, sure.
Bodie, what's your question?
What did you have for dinner?
I had a cup of chili and some pita chips. It was vegetarian chili.
It's crunchy.
Chips are crunchy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, how was your day?
It was good. My day was good.
Thanks, Dr. Martin.
How was yours?
Good.
Good.
Work-life balance. Isn't this exactly what we're
Yeah,
talking
he's
about?
got it. Yeah.
We're doing it. Say thanks, Dr. Martin.
Thanks, Dr. Bye, Dr. Martin.
See you, buddy. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I guess we can call it, right, Deb?
I just did it. We're going to go slightly off schedule again in December because of break and finals week and all that kind of stuff. So the next one is tentatively planned for Wednesday, December 5th at 7:30, same place. And it will be hosted by our program manager, Lydia Holtz, and it will be a student panel. So
Oh, cool.
looking forward to that. We're trying some different formats this time. This recording will be posted soon if you have colleagues who wanted to attend but couldn't tonight. Hopefully within the next couple days, it'll be posted to the EDD resources site. So if there aren't any other questions.
Thanks, everybody, for being in here tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
No, thank you. It was excellent.
Glad
Thank
you could
you.
be here.
Bye-bye.
Good luck, Jim.
Bye. Bye,
Good
Deb.
night, Dr. Martin. Take care.